Hello, I'm Ben from Walford Weekly, and this week I'm going to be taking a look back at what should have been a peaceful summer fete, but it soon all spirals into a week where a small little accident has repercussions all over the square. And boy, do they roll with how extreme they can take it.
Put it down!
Okay.
So sit back and let me take you through the events of Walford in Bloom 2017, which could be described as some as a disaster week in more ways than one. Let me set the scene a bit. Jane Bill has been hard at work all spring getting Walford ready for the fete, planting colourful flowers all around the square, and everyone is expecting to have a jolly old time. Jane has recently found out that Stephen has been lying about his illness, having brain cancer.
Now Stephen's just told me the truth about this tumour he's meant to have. Says he told you. Lauren's my daughter, Jane, so why didn't you say anything?
At the same time, Stephen is also having a secret affair with Abby, and she's now pregnant with who we now know as Baby Abby. There is also a small group of people getting ready to protest to the council, and the full of life Joyce and Ted are pottering around their flat, not really doing much. But I've also got to let you know that Ted is suffering from PTSD, so I feel the need I have to bring it up now. Let's fast forward a bit now to the local mayor starting her speech in front of the community, and it soon turns to disaster when the protesters are wanting to know where the council houses and the budget is gone. I mean, they're spending it all on this summer fete. And they show that they are upset by throwing a bottle of water at Fee Browning, and one of the biggest disasters of this week, pushing over these cupcakes where they fall to the ground, almost in slow motion. Just when things are starting to simmer down, we get the first in a chain of events when a gas pipe explodes behind Phil. Lucky for us, there was a bin story running throughout 2017, which is fondly known as Bingate, where they were all not getting collected and piling up right behind where Phil ends up landing on them and thus saving his life. Thank God we had that build up for a whole year. The payoff is truly something else. Ted has gone into full PTSD mode now after hearing the gas explosion by barricading the house up and waving this gun around. Joyce, being the iconic and just full of life character that she is quietly telling Ted to just stop, with no energy or enthusiasm behind her at all. Now, on a quick note here, if you have ever seen Maggie Steed in any other TV show, she's actually a fantastic actress. I just don't know what they were thinking with wasting an actress like this on a character as dull as Joyce. For some reason, her awful attempt at calming Ted down doesn't work, and he ends up shooting someone at the door when they come to see if he's okay. That someone ends up being Johnny Carter, and yes, that comes into play later on as well. With Jane telling Stephen she knows everything about what he's been up to, he goes all evil in his final moments. Notice this kind of odd biblical shot of him behind the stained glass window, and he decides that Jane has to be stopped. So he starts to set fire to the restaurant, gets rid of her crutches, and if you didn't think this week of episodes could be any more over the top already, this is where it really starts going to pot, when people start running in and out of a burning building, ambulances crashing, and even helicopters turn up. First, Abby is the one to run into the restaurant with a moment I will remember, I think, until the day I die.
I can't get out. I'm okay. Just hang on. Abby.
Next into the fire is Max and Stephen trying to rescue Abby, but of course, not Jane. And now with Abby out safe, Stephen just casually walks back in again.
Stephen, what are you doing? I'll go back in there.
Now it's Max's turn again to walk back into the fire. No, I'm not making this up. That policewoman right there, she just makes no effort at all to try and stop him going into this dangerous situation. Also, I need to mention, during all of this, we also have a police team who have arrived to deal with the gun shooting and Johnny being shot when he's taken off to the hospital in an ambulance that, of course, because why not, ends up tipping over during a crash. They really did throw everything they could at this episode, didn't they?
Walford 3-1 now, return home station.
back in the restaurant, we have the moment that the show itself has forgotten about, where Max basically causes Stephen's death from pushing him into the corner of a sharp table edge. Also, can I just point out that they are just having a long leisurely chat while breathing in all this smoke and on the verge of death here. With Stephen out and now Max, it isn't long until they have let the fire team do all the work and Stephen gets rushed to hospital for his final moments. Right, quickly popping back over to the ambulance now, we also have a helicopter being used to really blow the budget out of control. I guess we know why they spent 8 months on that bin and past the storyline now. Stephen dies now, tragically, with Abby by his side, telling him that she is pregnant and he will live on, even in death. And remember, this death, Stephen's death, is all down to Max Branning alone.
I love you so much.
And the news of Stephen dying isn't even at the top of his worries. Max's only concern is now that Jane turns out to be alive, and of course means that she can tell everyone he was the one responsible for Stephen's death and of course blackmailing the whole square for a year. Max really was at a total low at this point, wasn't he?
I told you she's alive. She is alive.
And this is the end of Walford and Bloom week. There really was so much going on. There was a whole miscarriage storyline with Bernadette and also the start of an affair storyline with Bex and her teacher that I didn't even have time to mention in this video because it would just been too bloated. All of this comes from a year of slow-paced storylines with a few weeks here and there where they had this big disaster or a big stunt where the show was obviously trying and kind of failing to bring some life back into the show. The unnecessary death of Stephen was nothing but messy in the end, and it all ended up doing more damage to Max's character to be basically unredeemable. Now, allegedly the original plan was that Jane was meant to die and be killed off, but there were arguments and sort of things going on behind the scenes that ended up with them changing this death to Stephen instead, and this kind of backs up the way that Jane left with no sort of storyline or ending in sight. Of course, I can't deny or confirm any of this, but with the fact that the executive producer ended up leaving quite sharply after these episodes aired, I guess it wasn't only the fans that weren't quite pleased with the direction of the show at the time. Anyway, let me know what you thought when you watched Walford and Bloom and what you thought it did to the show sort of in the long run. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And also, if you've got any episodes or storyline suggestions for me to cover in the future, let me know in the comments below because, of course, everything you post is always considered. And while you're here till this long in the video, why not check out these videos where I've reviewed past storylines and episodes of EastEnders.